Okay, so the first point I would like to counter is that my opponent just stated was that we did not mention Asian Americans as all, even though they constitute the minority group. However, I would like to point out that Asian Americans actually comprise of around 60 to 80% of the applicant pool to colleges. Therefore, they don't actually need the aid that race-based affirmative action gives to those who suffer, who don't have the opportunity to prove themselves. And in fact, there are actually docked points in the admission process because they're usually able to reach those opportunities themselves. They don't need as much aid. And also, they don't tend to suffer as much from low-income families. According to Valerie Strauss of the Washington Post, nationwide, 7% of poor whites live in high-poverty neighborhoods, but 23% of poor blacks do so. Therefore, the African Americans tend to suffer more and don't have the opportunity to prove themselves, hence the need for race-based affirmative action. Also, I would like to point out that many of these schools might say that they are giving, they make it clear that they're using a race-based affirmative action as part of the admissions process. Therefore, also according to Valerie Strauss of the Washington Post, in the article "Why We Still Need Affirmative Action for African Americans in College Admissions," applicants in non-favored categories can dispute the wisdom of preferences, whether for race or other characteristics, but cannot claim they suffered unfair discrimination if institutions are transparent about their missions and how particular student characteristics advance them. If they're aware of the policies, they really shouldn't be complaining about reverse discrimination, and therefore the race-based affirmative action would still be valid in those cases. In fact, according to Bill Shaw from in the article Business Ethics Quarterly, he found that in a separate study and based on data from the National Opinion Research Center, Orlando Patterson relates that no more than 7% of white students felt that they had been negatively affected by race-conscious admission policies. Therefore, the point that they made about race-based affirmative action being reverse discrimination, most white students don't actually feel that loss because most of them have the opportunity to apply for higher education. He also stated that, or made the point, that immediately after the affirmative action ban was implemented in California, that the amount of African Americans and Mexicans attending schools declined, which supports my point I made earlier that banning race-based affirmative action actually decreases the diversity, which goes against their policy that, or what they're arguing, that after the ban, that diversity was increased, so they actually countered themselves. And additionally, in another state that banned affirmative action, such as Texas, according to Brenda Bosch, Suzanne Holtman in the National Conference of State Legislators, after Texas abolished its affirmative action program in 1996, Rice's university freshman class had 46% African Americans and 22% pure Hispanics. Therefore, these instances in both California and Texas prove that race-based affirmative action is still needed to give these minorities the chance to go to college and to get the higher education. And this, again, just repeating, in California, elite institutions have struggled to recruit Black and Hispanic students since the 1996 ballot referendum. So therefore, I would like to conclude that race-based affirmative action is necessary to give these minorities a chance to succeed, and they are not actually replacing qualified students with less qualified students. In fact, they're giving them a chance to prove themselves. Thank you.